Can everyone hear me okay? Am I coming through loud and clear? And okay, good. So, and you can see the video link of the Yealink phone, the T41P, which is what everyone's using. And you should see a small video capture of that.
Yep, I see it.
Okay, so I want to thank everyone for attending, and I apologize for, again, the unforced user error on my part on not originally sending the correct link out. So we're going to be training today on the new PREMHost CloudPBX system that's going to be installed Friday afternoon and up and running Monday morning first thing. So what we're going to do today is go over first the welcome email, which is what you're seeing on your displays right now, and then I'm going to move us over to the detailed user quick start guide that will give you the ability to a nice reference for the future use of the system. We try to design it so that it has a lot of graphics in it that specifically point out the different uses of the buttons, etc. And then I'm going to spend a little time, if we have time, on the web client, because the web client does give you some capabilities that I think make it a little easier, even if you only use one or two of the features, a little easier to use the system. And typically when people use the web client, they're much happier with their experience on the system. So let me just go ahead and kick it off. The email that you're seeing on your display right now is the welcome email that was sent out last night that everyone should have received. If you did not receive it, please send an email to support@digitalfuture.us.com, and we'll make sure to check that we have the right email address for you and resend it. So important things about the welcome email. I'm going to spend a little time on this because it has all of the information that you need in order to use the system, including some links for things like the quick start guide here. So this is a link to our quick start guide, the one that I'm going to actually be using for the training today. It's just in a PDF format. You click that link, it downloads to your PC, and you'll have a reference that will be consistent and correct for you the entire life of the system. You'll also have a more detailed online user manual that takes you directly to the 3CX website. And 3CX is the underlying voice application that we use and deploy for all of our implementations. And then most importantly here is the information that you need to be able to access your voicemail, and you'll have a unique voicemail pin. In this case, this is extension 4949, voicemail pin 7765. So when you go to initially set up your voicemail, you'll just hit that voicemail button, which is this button right here on your phone, and that will be the pin that you will be prompted to enter. Then the information that's also important, if you ever do decide to use the web client, is right here. The web client doesn't require the installation of any software. All you have to do is click on this link. And this link will go directly to PREMHost CloudPBX, and it... hold on one second. I'm just going to... for now, I'm going to mute the mics. We're getting a lot of background. Okay, so everybody's muted. If you need to have if you need to ask a question or anything or want to stop me, just send a quick chat, or you can hit the little open palm at the bottom right of your screen, and that'll give me a notification that you want to ask a question. So all you have to do to get to the web client is to click this link, enter your extension number, and then enter this password. And we'll go over if we have time, we'll go over the web client. The other thing that you have the option of using with the system is an application for your desktop that is comparable in features and functionality to the web client. But really, for most people, the web client will give them the interface that they would like to use, and it also gives them the ability to make calls if required, and will act as a soft phone on your desktop. Typically, this web client is the way to go. It's only when there's specific features that aren't offered by the web client that people use the desktop soft phone here. So if you do want to download any of those soft phone applications, they are available for Windows, Mac, and for Android and Apple iPhones. So one of the really cool things about PREMHost CloudPBX is that you have the ability to download and install a pre-configured soft phone for your smartphone, so that if you want to be able to easily receive and make phone calls through your system, through the system in your office, that will send your caller ID for your system in the office when you make a call and allow you to receive calls on your soft phone, on the smartphone anytime you want, even transfer calls internally, put callers on hold, have conference calls, all from your smartphone. That's available. It's not a requirement by any means, but it is something that can be used later on. Okay, hold on one second. Monica has a question. Just 1 second. Okay, Monica.
Oh, I just wanted to ask you to give a brief explanation of what a soft phone is, but I think.
Oh, okay, great.
So basically, guys, it's just it's like being at your desk phone, but using your computer or using your cell phone. So if you're making and receiving calls through the soft phone app on your cell phone, people are not getting your cell number. It's like you're at your desk phone. So that's the beauty of it, especially if somebody works part-time from home or, what have you. And then it's nice to have the option to do it from the computer as well. Some people just, I think, would probably enjoy using the computer version of the desk phone, and you can switch off between them. You can use both of them. You can use the desk phone, and then you can do your next call from the computer. So you have options there.
Yeah, and like currently I'm on a headset connected to my PC, and this is how I make and receive all my phone calls, and of course do any web conferences. And then I use my smartphone constantly when I'm on out of the office, so that when Monica calls me on my direct dial number, it rings my smartphone, and I have the ability to receive that call, and she doesn't have to worry about what number to try to call me on, depending upon where I am. She doesn't have to have my mobile phone and all the other things that go along with that. Okay, so you'll also receive, as part of this, a configuration file that is one of the 3 attachments that you see down here. That is only if you're going to use the desktop soft phone application or the smartphone application. So after you download and install the software, we'll then open that file that is a .conf file, and it will automatically configure your soft phone for you. You don't have to do anything. You just open it up, configures it, connects you to the system, and you're off and running. Okay. So I'm going to move on to the quick start guide. So this is exactly what you have in your welcome email. And so I'm going to go through it. I'm not going to go through it in horrendous detail, but I'm going to spend as much time as possible on the key areas, particularly on one of the first and most important things to remember to do when you come in the office on Monday. It's very important that you set your voicemail up right away and follow these instructions. The reason for that is that if you don't record your self-identification name, you will not be searchable in the search by name directory that's offered to callers when they reach the auto attendant. Now, not that many callers reach the auto attendant because most calls either go directly to the CRC or go to the front desk receptionist. But the times that they do go to the auto attendant, if they do want to search for you by last name, if you haven't recorded this self-identification message, they won't be able to find you. So that's an important one. And there are detailed instructions on how to do that. So most of you will probably focus primarily on using the physical phone as your interface to the system. So I always want to make sure that everyone understands what these buttons are for, and also that you have this as a reference for the future. So this is a button cluster that's from a different model phone, but the buttons all function identically. And the buttons on your phone are along the right-hand side of the phone for the button cluster. And if you start at the bottom, we have the speakerphone, which I know that everyone has been using these phones for a while now. The features work a little differently with our system, even though it's the same phone. So I just want to make sure I go over those. And just as a refresher, so the speaker button just allows you to get dial tone or answer a phone call on the speaker, and then dial if you're making an outbound call, just dial either the local number or dial the long distance number from the time you hit the speakerphone. Now, one of the things that I want to make sure everybody knows, and I'll go through this again probably, is that we have the system set up so that if you're dialing a local number, you can just dial the 7 digits. So well, that's not, you know what, I take that back, because you're in the 714 area code and there's an overlay. So you will have to dial either the 10 digits or 1 plus 10 digits, but you can do either. So you don't have to dial the 1 to make an outbound call, but you can. And then for all long distance calls, the same thing holds true. The other thing that's important to remember on this phone is you all, I'm sure, are familiar with this toggle volume button. This volume button is one of the things that can sometimes cause confusion for users, and that is that depending upon the status of the phone, whether the phone is idle, whether you're on a call, or you're using the speakerphone, it controls the volume level of that speaker. Unless when the phone is idle. When the phone is idle, it controls the volume of the ringer. So as you push it up, it's going to increase in volume. And as you press it down, it's going to decrease. Now, the problem is that sometimes people will forget that they're not on a call, and maybe the previous call, the speakerphone was a little too loud, and they'll turn this all the way down, not realizing that then they will no longer receive any ringer tone when a call comes in. So just always remember, if you're only seeing things flash on the display when a call comes in, that you may have accidentally turned the volume of the ringer down to 0. Okay. There's a redial button. Yeah, I know. there's a redial button. If you haven't used this in the past, if you press the redial button, what you'll see is a list of all of the calls that you've made from the phone for usually weeks at a time. And you can then use the selection control buttons to cursor up or down and then press OK to select the number that you dialed to redial it. The other little trick is that if you made a call and didn't reach anybody and hung up and just want to redial that number again, you just press the redial button twice. The voicemail button it probably doesn't need any explanation. Above the voicemail button is a headset button. If you have a headset that you're currently using on the phone, you probably already realized that the headset button routes all of the audio to the headset when it's pressed. So you can also answer and disconnect calls if you have a headset by using that, or you can switch back and forth between headset and speaker or handset. And then the last button, which is the mute button up at the top here, that mutes whatever microphone is currently being used for audio. So that means that if you're on speaker, it mutes the speaker microphone. If you're on the handset, it mutes that. And if you're on a headset, it will mute the microphone on your headset. So we already covered this, outbound dialing. I don't think anyone ever needs to make international calls. So currently, Monica, the international calling is disabled. If that needs to be enabled, that's by default. If it needs to be enabled, let me know. The dial string, I'm sorry, this says 3-digit extensions, but it's, of course, you guys have 4-digit extensions. And by the way, your extensions have not changed. Your extension numbers are going to be the same. So you'll dial 4-digit extensions to dial internally, and then it may be in the future that we'll connect all of the current systems, and you'll be able to dial extension to extension between Diamond Bar and San Diego and Orange. There is an intercom feature that's available on the system. The intercom feature, if you're not familiar with intercom, what intercom does is it's like, think of it as a direct page to a single extension. So what it does is if you dial *9 plus the extension number of the user that you want to reach, it will beep their phone twice and then turn on their hands-free speakerphone, and they don't have to touch the phone to communicate with you. And this, by the way, can be disabled if it's something that you don't want to have used. Currently, we don't have paging set up, so paging is not currently available, but it can be set up if needed. So when your phone is, I'm going to now go over all the different display statuses and the options that are available with the soft buttons. So all of these, why does this keep switching? So when I refer to soft buttons, these are the buttons that I'm referring to at the bottom of your LCD display. And I'm sure you've noticed that these change based upon the status of the phone, whether you're currently on a call, not on a call, and they will change and give you the ability to transfer calls, put calls on hold, etc. So it's important to kind of watch what happens with these buttons, because as they change, they give you the capability to easily do things like transfer calls, etc., without having to search for it on your phone display, on your phone itself. So when the phone's idle, you should have history, phone book, DND, and menu. The history just gives you, if you press the history button, it gives you a listing of every single call, inbound, outbound, missed calls, abandoned calls, etc., that have come to your phone, or any calls that you've made outbound. You can then cursor down through that list, select one that you want to call again, or you can also add that as a stored number to the phone itself. The one thing to keep in mind is that you can do those things. You can add things to history from history, but if the phone is reset, so completely defaulted, that information is going to go away. The phone book button is actually going to say 3CX phone on it, and that gives you a list. If you press it, it gives you a list of every user on the system. It's something that you can use. I think it's a little cumbersome using that, and you're much better off using the web client if you'd like to have easy access to calling anyone on the system with a single click. The Do Not Disturb button, if you press the Do Not Disturb button, all calls to your extension will immediately go to voicemail. So you rarely want to use the Do Not Disturb button. If you do use the Do Not Disturb button, make sure to look for this. It's not going to be red, but it will be a black circle with a line through it at the top of your LCD display. One of the things that happens most often with people not receiving phone calls is they have pressed Do Not Disturb and haven't realized that it's still on hours or days later. And this is the only indicator that you'll receive. You don't get a stutter tone on these phones when you're on Do Not Disturb. So it's something to always make sure you're looking for. And I would recommend that you not use the menu selection, because there are things in there that can break the functioning of the phone, and unless you're asked to by someone. Okay, so on inbound calls, you will see displayed in the middle of the display the phone number and the extension and the name of the user, an internal user that's calling you. Or you will see, if the caller name is available, the caller name and the phone number of the outside caller that's calling your extension. You then have the ability to either select answer, select silence if you just want to silence the ringtone. When you press silence, the call will actually continue to ring at your phone until it hits the threshold to go to voicemail. If you hit reject, it will silence the call and send the call directly to your voicemail. Now, when you're on a live call, again, the soft buttons change on your phone, and you'll be able to, if you want to transfer the call, you can select transfer, and I'm going to cover in more detail the transfer button function. You can place that caller on hold. You can conference another internal or external caller into the call, or you can press end to end the call. You will also, of course, have park buttons beneath your call appearances here. Every single user will have park 1, 2, and 3 on their main display. So you'll be able to just press the park button to put that user or that caller on a system-wide park, and every phone will indicate that there's a call parked on that park button. And then for them to pick it up, all they have to do is push the appropriate park button to pick that call up. You can do ad hoc conferences from your phones. So you can either initiate a conference call by calling another user on the system or calling an external party. You then press the conference button to start a call to another user internally or another external party. And once that person is answered, you press conference again and everyone will be conferenced together. I'm going to go through that in a little more detail. So transferring calls. There are a lot of options when it comes to transferring calls on the system. Currently, the default is going to be what's called a supervised transfer. A supervised transfer means that when you press transfer and you select a button that represents the user you want to transfer the call to, or you dial an extension, the default is going to ring that extension and not send the call immediately to that extension. So it rings the extension, that user will answer. You can then collaborate with them as to whether or not they want to receive the call, and then press the transfer button again to send the call to them. Now, if as you're in the middle of a transfer, you just as you started a transfer, you just want to do a transfer to that caller, you'll see that there's a B transfer button in the lower left-hand corner after you've pressed the transfer button on your phone. So you can then just hit B transfer and it'll just send the call immediately to that extension. It will ring at that extension 4 or 5 times until it's either picked up by that user or will go directly to their voicemail. And the send button will initiate a call to that target extension, as I was referring to before, as a supervised transfer rather than just sending it directly as a blind transfer. Now, one of the things that's often a little confusing when somebody's in the middle of transferring a call, so as you notice here, it says transferring. So you're at a point here where the call's in the process of being transferred. So let's say it's ringing at that other user's extension, and then they answer. When they've answered, but the caller that originally hit your extension hasn't actually been transferred, you can use the swap button to swap between the target of the transfer and the caller, which can make things which it makes it a little easier sometimes. So let's say that the target of the transfer says, okay, can you just put them on park 1 right now? I'm on a call, but I'll be done in a few minutes. You can just hit the swap button, go back to the original caller, tell them that it's going to be a few minutes. Would they like to hold? And if they do want to hold, you just press park 1 and you're done with the call. Now you can also remain on the call by pressing conference. So if you hit conference, that'll conference the target user on the system, you and the caller into a single call. And again, I go through all these. So I list all of these in the guide so you can go back and refer to them. I'm not going to go into a whole ton of detail on this. So any questions so far? I haven't seen any more chats come up. I don't want to just keep rambling on. If you want to raise a hand or anything. Let me see if I can unmute the mics again. See if we've got. Oh. Okay, conference calls. Do you find yourself using conference calls a lot? Anyone? So conference calls, as I've mentioned, they just allow you to do ad hoc conferences to bring other users or outside parties into a single call. You can have up to 3 total parties in a single conference call. I probably won't go into a whole lot of additional detail there because this gets pretty complicated if no one's really using it very much. But this is a very detailed list of how that feature works and what the options are.
I don't think we use it too
Okay.
frequently. I know I have on occasion.
So I won't go through this in detail because we're kind of starting to run low on time. So it is something. This is a very detailed explanation of exactly how all the features work. So if you want to go back and refer to those later, it'll give you all the information that you want. But it's a ton of. It's a very feature-rich conferencing option, but there's a lot to know if you're going to use it much. So. So that's really most of the physical phone features. The last thing I want to make sure that everyone knows is that if you just want to transfer callers directly to someone's voicemail, all you have to do is while speaking to the caller is press the transfer button and then dial *4 plus the extension number of that user and hit the transfer button again, and it will send that caller directly to that user's voicemail.
Okay, that's helpful.
So let me jump over to the web client.
Kevin, can you briefly speak to how the ring groups will work for the title units and payoff?
Absolutely. So that's actually one of the things I was going to cover.
Okay.
Are you? You should be seeing my other display with the web client. So what you'll notice is currently I have every single user on the system is showing up in the main group. So one of the things that I love about the web client and making calls from the web client is that if you move up here to the enter name or number field to call somebody, so let's say I wanted to call Sandra Navarro. So as I start typing her name, you'll notice that I get Sandra Navarro and Sandra Ortega. All I have to do is select whichever user I want to call, and it'll immediately generate a call through my phone or through the web client if I'm just using the web client to that user. Now, one of the other things that's really slick is that when you're actually on a call and you're looking to transfer the call to someone else, what you would see is not just, and let's say Sandra was the one that you wanted to transfer the call to, you wouldn't just see Sandra Navarro and her extension, you would also see a second entry down here that would say voicemail. And if she had a mobile phone number in her profile, let's say she didn't use the smartphone app, but she did have a mobile phone number in her profile, you would also see her mobile phone number. So if you knew that she wasn't in the office and she was on her mobile phone, you just select that mobile phone and it's going to transfer the call out to her mobile phone number. Or in the case of it saying voicemail, it would just transfer the call directly to her voicemail. The other cool thing is that these little dots in the lower right-hand section of the circle, those indicate the status. So if it's green, it indicates that user is idle, that the phone's, that Sandra's not on a call, and so you know that she can at least take the call if she's at her desk. If she were on a call currently, it would show up as yellow. Sandra Ortega shows up as gray because Sandra Navarro right now, her extension is the only one that's actually registered to the system because we haven't turned the system over yet on Friday. So there's a lot of feedback that's given within the web client based on color tones to give you information. As far as how the different groups are going to work, so you can see here that we've got all the groups listed, right? We've got CRC, Farm, Frickert, Higuereta, Payoff, and Radecki. So if, as an example, you're part of the farm group, if you select the farm group within the web client, it'll show you just those users. Now, what'll happen is calls that come into the different users or groups will always show up and give you and highlight those users and give you the ability to see exactly what the status of the phone system is. So as an example, if I were to call, hold on one second. So if I were to call Sandra, which is the phone that I have set up over here, this is what you'll see. So you see this pop-up that comes up? So since this is Sandra's web client, and you'll see that it's Digital Futures calling Sandra, I can press answer, or I can press end, however I want to do it, to answer this call. So let's say I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to answer the call. So I now, hold on. It helps if I mute that. So now I have all these options: transfer, alternate transfer, which is the blind transfer, conferencing, recording. I can even start a video call with them, put them on a hold, mute, etc. And I can show the keypad so I can dial if I want to. So these are the capabilities that come with the web client. And it also it makes it very easy to. So if you want to, if this call to Sandra, she needed to transfer it somewhere else, all she would do is hit transfer and say she wanted to transfer it to Sandra Ortega. She would hit select Sandra Ortega, and it's going to transfer that call over. Now, and that's it. I mean, that's how simple it is. As far as how the ring groups are actually going to work, though, each of the ring groups calls will be transferred into the ring groups. All extensions will ring, and anybody can pick up the call. If it's not ringing, so let's say a call comes in and it's to Colby, but Colby's not at his desk, and James and Johnson are available and idle. They can just press the call pickup button on their phone to pick up any call ringing into their group. If that makes sense. Any questions about that? Now, they'll also, though, if you're using the web client, it's even easier to pick up calls. Unfortunately, I can't demo that right now. I don't have enough phones set up, but you'll actually be able to see calls ringing in, just as you were able to see them in the entire list. You actually will see the calls ringing in, and you'll have the ability to pick those calls up if you want to. Any questions about the groups? Okay. So CRC will be a full-on queue with, it has the ability to queue calls if everyone's busy, etc. The agents in CRC will log in. So one of the other things I love about the web client is logging in and logging out of the queue is literally as simple as just hitting this little toggle queue up here. So if it's blue, you're logged in. If it's gray, you're logged out. And since Sandra is the supervisor in the CRC queue, she'll be able to see exactly what the status is of everyone. See along the bottom, average wait time, current waiting, abandoned calls, etc. She'll be able to see along the right-hand side everyone that's in the queue and whether they're logged in or not, and she can log in or log out anyone just by hitting the queue. And we'll see every call that's currently ongoing in that queue and calls that are ringing in. So this also, by the way, the system also has built-in chat. The chats, I think you may already have chat, but if you don't, everyone who uses the web client or the smartphone app or the desktop app all have the ability for secure chatting between anyone else in the system, which I use a lot with my techs. You also have your entire call history. So rather than going to your phone, you can see the call history of every single call that's ever been made from or has rang to your phone. And you can see them either as incoming, outgoing, etc. You can see all your voicemails. So if your voicemails aren't being sent to your email address, you can see every single voicemail here, see the caller ID, the phone number, and be able to play it directly from this section. You can also schedule conferences, so audio or video conferences. So today, the way I scheduled this video conference was to select video later, pick the time and date, subject, etc., and created it and created with the appropriate calendar meeting that you want to use. So if everyone is on Office 365 and you are on Office 365, you would select Office 365, create the meeting, and then you could send it to all your participants. And I think any questions on the web client? Okay. So as far as yes, okay. So yes, you can customize. Well, you can't customize your own groups. We can set up groups for different users, but the way groups work in PREMHost is it doesn't allow you to set your own individual groups up. But if you do want a group set up, just let us know and we can set it up for you. Yes, you can save a caller from the history and add them as in your personalized area, and then they'll just show up with an external number if that's what you're looking for. So you can just click it and dial right from the web client. You can also import contacts or add them right in the contact section. Come on. So under the contacts personal, there's a little button here. It says new contact. You can just add them directly. And then once they're added, you just click on them and you're off and running. Oh, one of the other things I want to mention here is in the upper right-hand corner, if you can see it, there's a drop-down that says web client. When you have a phone associated with your profile, which most of you will, you'll have an option for either web client or the phone itself. So you'll always want to, if you're using the web client with your phone, you always want to make sure that your phone is selected as the device that you're using. If you just select web client, then the web client is then set as the quote unquote device that receives all phone calls. And then you need to have a headset or speaker and a microphone on your PC in order to answer those calls. But the cool thing about the web client is that if anyone eventually works out of their home, a couple days a week, all you have to have is a PC and a headset with a USB interface on it, and you can make and receive phone calls directly from a browser. It's just as easy as logging in, connecting that headset, and you're off and running. Okay, I have everyone unmuted. If you have any questions, we have about 6 minutes before I have to start the next call, and I need to send out. Monica, would you mind sending a blast out with that? Oh no, never mind. I have to send it out. because it's a different URL. So if there are any more questions, then I think we'll end this one, and I need to get ready for the next one. Where are you? Oh, yeah, you are muted. Sorry about that. I thought I'd unmuted you. Okay, you're unmuted, Monica. Sorry.
Thanks.
Sorry about that.
I just saw a couple. I had a question about the groups on the web client. Can we customize our own groups? If there's
No, you
No.
can't. No. You can have favorites, but if you want to have a group set up just for you, just let us know, and we'll set the group up for you and add whatever users you want into it.
Okay, but you can have favorites. So
oh yeah,
those
favorites,
would
absolutely.
go to the
So
top of the list. That would work.
yeah, so if you go to people and you select, you will be able to see if there's a little star under at the far right. If you select that star, then you go to your favorites. You'll see that user will show up in your favorites. So you can just select the star and deselect it as you want.
Okay. And then Fabi had a question I saw in the chat about add or save a caller in the history of calls.
Yeah, I went through that.
Yeah, I think he did answer that.
Okay, sorry. I got another call while I was on this call, so I was a little distracted. Okay, so I'll just say one quick thing, guys. If anybody would like a headset, let me know, and we can order one. And we have the ones that we buy do allow you to connect to either the computer or the phone, so you're able to use your headset to switch back and forth. So if you want to try the web client out, that'd be great. Just let me know if you need a headset. That's all I have.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to need to end this and get that email out to everybody. So thanks everyone for participating, and hopefully this is going to help you out. If you have any questions, just let us know.
Great. Thank you, Kevin.
Great.
Bye.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you.
Bye.